What is the strangest thing you've seen someone do on public transport? A guy kept yelling no every time the bus stopped at a bus stop. He yelled yes when the bus stopped at his stop. Somehow I find this one to be the funniest one I've read yet. Lol. Now arriving at Woodbridge Stap. No. Now arriving at Elm Creek. No. Now arriving at Jefferson Station. Yes. Tiny elderly Chinese woman was carrying a live chicken by the feet in one hand and a shopping bag in the other. Tried to get on a bus and the driver stopped her. They argue back and forth for a bit and finally she lets out an exasperated growl, breaks the neck of the chicken, stuffs it in the bag and shouts, "It groceries now. I live in China and this is more Chinese than anything I've seen here. Wait a minute. No Google. No Instagram. No Facebook, but you're allowed Reddit. Serious question. A woman on the London tube brought 3 live ducks in harnesses onto the carriage. They were just stood there chilling and quacking away. This screams Piccadilly line. I could see it happening in Uxbridge on a market day. Dude across from me takes everything out of his backpack while kind of muttering to himself. I figure he's looking for something. He then proceeds to put the backpack on his head. Guess he needed to take a closer look. That last line sounded like a dad joke and it made me chuckle. I saw a young woman get on, early mid-20s, obliterated on drugs. She sat far back behind me so I didn't hear anything. And the next thing I know some musclehead is yelling for the bus driver to stop the bus and was manhandling an old mid-50s guy off the bus. Musclehead started yelling, "Get this creep off the bus. He's back there kissing a passed out girl." Although in 10 years taking the bus this is the most I've ever witnessed happen. So the bus is genuinely a safe place to be. Little did you know his biggest muscle was actually his heart. The heart is the strongest muscle. In Melbourne, I've seen a lot of people chroming on the train. Upfield line, represent, which is where people inhale paint cans or petrol, usually from a plastic or paper bag. One day on my way to uni, I saw a guy inhaling from a paper bag. Oh, another chroming dude. Awesome. I dismissively thought to myself. Suddenly he pulls a sandwich out of the bag and begins eating it, then throws the bag away. Motherfucker was just inhaling his sandwich. I love how a guy just pre-tasting his sandwich is considered weirder than people huffing paint. I was on a sleeper train going from Hamburg to Rotterdam and woke up in the middle of the night to a 60-ish-year-old German lady violently masturbating on the bunk opposite while staring into my very soul. I just pretended to go back to sleep. I wasn't asleep. She knew. Bonus. In the morning, when we arrived and were leaving the train she winked at me. I think she liked you. What makes you think that? She may have been Canadian. I live in Detroit and I saw a grown man pull a fish out of a bag and slap a girl with it. Honestly I was scared for my life. Nah, just a couple of Python fans. So that's how programmers behave. Once saw an elderly guy pushing an old man in a wheelchair in the underground. The man in the wheelchair wore sunglasses, not a sunny day, and had staring eyes behind them. He also had his feet crossed in a way no old man would have. His hands were really pale and folded on his lap. I could not see him breathing. But the strangest thing was that the elderly man was holding the old man's head the whole time, not gently, but really holding it with his 2 hands as if it would fall off. I still don't know if he was dead, a puppet or really sick, but it was somehow really scary. You have been visited by Money Pigeon. Like the video and subscribe within 5.6 seconds and you will get rich. Now back to scheduled programming. A guy was standing next to me with a model train, modeled after the V/line trains in Victoria, Australia, that he just bought. Proceeded to strike up a conversation with me, telling me about how he was bitten by a dog, sued the owner, and used the money he got to buy the model. He even showed me both the bite wound and took the model out of its box to show me. A strange experience, but also quite interesting. That's a wise investment. The new purple and silver V lines or the old burgundy ones. Newer purple train. Giant homeless woman started to bathe herself on the F train. She stripped down on a moderately full car and used 2-gallon jugs of spring water and a roll of paper towels. Little rivulets of homeless lady funk streaked across the floor as everyone raised their feet, wishing the train would come to a stop quickly. Little rivulets of homeless lady funk is a fine piece of English verbiage. I once saw a bee fly onto the DC Metro line on a seat. It hung out there for one stop and then took off again when the door opened. I even took a picture. He needs to take his feet off that damn seat. He needs to be more respectful. I stayed in Istanbul for a month. During that time, I came to the conclusion that some women lean back to avoid harassment. My first encounter was very weird though. It was very crowded and there were only 2 other girls there. Without saying anything, they wiggled their way to me and both leaned their back on my back. Not gonna lie, I was quite spooked. Haven't experienced it anywhere else. Since there were 2 of them, they could have just leaned against each other, which means they saw you alone and decided to help, which is nice. Sounds kind of nice though, that they have that kind of support for each other. Sniff petrol while yelling, "Go away," to no one. I think he was talking to you. If there was no one else there, he must be talking to you. My buddy licked about 2 feet of handrail on the full train. An elderly lady said she had been riding the train her entire life and that was hands down the most fucked up thing she ever saw. I once did an experiment where I swabbed various surfaces and then grew the bacterial/fungal cultures for a week. Bus handrail had a massive bloom of something yellowish which filled half a petri dish. I saw a man take his shoes off and clip his nails on the train. Left his nasty nails all over the seat and floor once he got out. There is a special place in hell for people who leave their toenails lying around. I saw an elderly lady pull out a can of Lysol, spray her armpits, then lift up her skirt and spray it between her legs. No reaction or acknowledgement for what she just did. I moved to the next car. Lysol is a brand name of cleaning and disinfecting products distributed by the Reckitt Benckiser company. Watched a guy pick up hair from a plastic bag and eat it. Police entered the train and arrested him, and it turned out to be his ex-girlfriend's hair. I'm sorry, what? I need more context. Like, did he shave his ex's head? Was it hair clippings? How much hair was in the bag? OP. A decent amount. Didn't look like it was cut off though. More as if he had pulled it or just very violently combed it off. IRC. We were riding the DAR trail in Dallas to the State Fair of Texas. There was a methed out crazy guy on there that kept staring at my 1-year-old son and repeating, in a low creepy voice, "He will not take you, but he will take the child. He will not take you, but he will take the child." Needless to say, we were not happy. We just wanted funnel cakes, not threats of demonic kidnapping. He was just mad you were taking the kid to the fair and not him. A woman got arrested for allegedly injecting strangers with an HIV syringe, but the whole thing was known by everyone who used public transport in my city. People made group chats just to warn each other about the HIV lady. IDK what happened to her, but hopefully she got arrested cause that week was insane and a lot of people were saying they got stung. Yeesh. What city so we can avoid it? You probably never heard of it. I don't live in the US. In Sydney, these twin brothers got on my bus. They were clearly homeless and pissed out of their brains. They both looked like Bob Ross, so one stood at one end of the bus and the other one at the other side, both screaming. He fucking ran like a rattlesnake, in sync for a good 20 minutes. Public transport at its best. I missed the part where you said they were pissed out of their brains and honestly thought they were doing some sort of weirdo performance art for a moment. LMAO. Kinda late, but it would have to be DDLG roleplay. Both were mid-30s and heavyset, dressed like middle school weebs, and the lady even had a pacifier. She kept asking her, "Daddy," repeatedly, baby voice and all, if they were at the park yet. That's not even the worst part of it. She would give her pacifier to her partner and he'd slob on it, heavily, and put it back in her mouth for her. And she would make this weird crooning noise. I'm shivering already just remembering. I still don't get why furries are the only ones made fun of. This is much worse. They also broke rule 1. Keep your kink private. Other people have not consented to being involved in your kink play. There was a couple like this that used to come into the burrito shop that I worked at. They always came on kids eat free night and the woman would get a kid's meal. Once I told her the total before her partner came to the register and she said in a baby voice, "Babies don't have money, silly. Daddy will pay," and I just about puked. I'm all for doing whatever you want in private, but that's crossing the line. Yeah, that's the problem with playing out your kinks in public. Everyone else becomes a non-consenting part of the scene. Saw a guy sitting in front of me on a double-decker bus masturbate. He wasn't even trying to hide, just straight up jerking it there and then. I have nightmares where I'm that guy, like I'm mid-wank and realize I'm in public. A guy on a train, seesawing back and forth saying, "I will kill everyone. Everyone. The streets will be flooded with blood. The day will come close. I will kill everyone. No mercy. No survivors. A feast for everyone. Even the innocent. The innocent will die." And so on. Did he stick to his word? I think not. But we don't know how the future will look like. I saw a guy, about 15 years old, chubby and always wearing a light blue t-shirt, entering a bus line I was taking a few years ago, actually several times. When the bus stopped and the driver opened the door, he just stood there with his little suitcase, staring at me or another passenger and said, "Take my suitcase in." "No please." "No, can you?" Just a straight order. I thought that he had some kind of disability and that he couldn't carry heavy objects, but once I grabbed his suitcase it was pretty light, and as I said, he was not looking like a weak guy. I expect everyone to be able to do this on his/her own. This happened several times and I have no explanation why this guy always had his little suitcase with him and why he always wanted others to carry it for basically 1 foot, and also why he was behaving this strangely. How on earth could you not ask, "How many times did you carry it?" Saw an elderly homeless woman get up from her seat, start yelling and screaming, then start stripping. Unfortunately I couldn't get off the train to switch cars because she was blocking one end and the conductor was at the other end. Eventually, we get to the next stop where I see police waiting. I switched cars and didn't look back. 16 months until I leave New York City. Not that I'm counting or anything. This is golden, Mr. Skeletal. It appears only once every 20,000 years. Like the video and subscribe to comment awards in 20 seconds or you will never have calcium and good bones again. PG! On top, food chain won't stop. New game, hot box that blue haze. 1 lock, 2 chains, no bras, 2 babes. Mic drop, new stage, lights in my rear view. 5 cops, full race, faster than a Tesla. They say I'm exhausted.